Okay, guys. So I'm gonna talk to you about the situation of the Anthony Davis to Lakers trade. I'm gonna run a GM mode on NBA 2K19 to see what would happen throughout 2 seasons if Anthony Davis did get traded to the Lakers. Obviously now we don't know how it's gonna be for the Lakers right now, but since the All-Star break, they won one game and lost a game. So there's still talks right now talking about if they're going to make it to the playoffs. So let's see what happens if the does go down. So this GM mode is not as precise as the season should be. I downloaded the roster of the Kristaps trade, Porzingis trade, and any trade after that I didn't take account for. Any trade before the Kristaps trade went through. So I'm gonna start the season doing that. And what I'm doing here now is I'm just adjusting the sliders so like the computers don't trade and don't really mess up the roster too much. That would affect the results, right? This is just 2K. It's not 100%. It's just fun to see what would happen if the Anthony Davis trade does go down. So as we go through this whole process, I'm gonna sim this game throughout the until the trade deadline, and then I'm gonna make the trade. So again, this is 2K. The 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 wins and losses aren't gonna be as accurate, aren't gonna be identical or even the same as what the real season went like. But again, this is a simulation, and just the whole point of this to see what would happen if to the Lakers after the trade goes down. So I'm going to talk you through like differences between this simulation and what happened in real life before the trade. So as you see, I'm simulating the the trade. So I'm just adjusting the roster first because 2K likes to adjust stuff in GM mode where they don't like putting players where they should be. So right now I'm letting it sim through. So you see that the season is not starting off strong, right? There's 2 to 4, which is similar to what happened to the Lakers in the regular season of 2000 when they first started, right? They weren't doing that well. Chemistry was low, and the whole team was figuring out how to play with each other. But just a heads up, this this team does a lot worse than what really happened in the regular season, even without the injuries. Again, like doing this, simulating it, it's hard to take into account for all the injuries that occurred. Yeah, I could have done it, but the whole point is just to see what it'll look like with the Anthony Davis trade. So yeah, there are a bunch of injuries that show up in the game, and I just let it run through. And I like to have the computer adjusted sometimes, which isn't the best, but for time's sake, I did that instead. So as of now, the record is 12-15. It went to 12, 13 and 15, 14. So it's going on a streak, and then Rondo gets injured. And due to this, I'm gonna probably think about adjusting the rotation. If not, because it's not a major injury, it's just a bruised sternum. So yeah, I adjust it, adjust the rotations, and I go back and sim right before. And I do this the whole time, right? So I'm gonna skip through this and just go through it really quick so you guys can see what's going on. And I'm gonna skip right to when I hit the trade deadline. Right. All right. As we're approaching a trade deadline, where the season's record is at 24-30, so like below 500. Although Laker did go below 500 before the All Star game, it wasn't 6 game under 500. right? So now I'm just showing you the stats of the players of the simulation. Lonzo Ball is doing 9.9 points per game, 12 assists per game, which is, right, overselling or over overrating his ability in the game, right? And LeBron is doing fairly well. He's plus minus 1.8, so he's pretty much carrying the team with the under 500 record. He's doing 28 points per game. He's doing shooting at 54% field goal. And Kyle Kuzma is doing 20 points per game this season with a pretty good, decent record. And I'm just scrolling over the people that are going to try to get traded because 2K does get a little funny. And the trade between the Lakers and Los Angeles, they were pretty much throwing everyone on the roster, right? So you look at Rondo, he's doing 10 points per game and 9.9 assists. So this is the stats per 36 minutes, right? So it doesn't give you the real amount. It just shows you. I like to look at this because it just shows you how well the player is doing based off of 36 minutes because not everyone's the same. Yeah, so as I go through, I'm just going to Caldwell Pope because that's who they're going to trade to, right? 12 points per game, right? I'm just like showing you, right? So I'm going to try, as of now, I'm going to try to attempt to trade. Just checking out Zubac here because he was supposed to be in the trade because the final trade offer the Lakers offered was like insane. They offered Lonzo Ball, Kyle Kuzma, Brandon Ingram, Caldwell Pope, Josh Hart, Zubac, and 2 first-round picks. And the Lakers get Solomon Hill and Anthony Davis. Solomon Hill is to fill up. It's for cap relief, right? He's according to 2K, his salary is $12 million per year, and that's a necessary cap that the Lakers would have to take. I'm just showing you. The whole point of this is like to show you, like, was this trade really worth it? If the Pelicans did accept the trade, who would be better off? Right. So like I play around with this, try to make the trade happen. I had to adjust a lot of stuff because 2K didn't allow me to trade a bunch of people, and like as you can see, that like Solomon Hill 12.25 million per year, and like as you can see, I'm having trouble here because the Pelicans have 19 players on their team, and I got to figure out how to do this, right? So I mess around with it a little and just add some like some garbage players into the trade so I can like fit the rosters. So I'm not gonna add Wesley Johnson. It's a little big name. Salary cap's a little higher. So I'm gonna add a bunch of like unknown players. Not gonna touch like Drew Holiday and Julius Randle or any of them because they do make a bigger impact on the team. They're not just like third strings. So as I go through, I'm just seeing what I can do to make this trade happen. Just release some players so I don't have to make that trade. But now I have to adjust some settings on 2K. I have to turn on recently signed restrictions. I'm gonna adjust the rules a little to make the trade happen, but it's not gonna be a 100% trade. But it's gonna include the core players: Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, Josh Hart, maybe some draft picks. Right? It's hard to make the exact same trade in real life as in the game because I do spend some time here adjusting the settings. Not gonna touch any of the player types and like what weighs on the trade. Like, this is what I really like about playing GM, right? You can really adjust what teams need, and like it's pretty cool to just create a cool simulation, see what really happened, because right, the season you just want to see what happens to each player with the season going through. Right, I turn on trade override just in case the Pelicans don't want to trade, just like in real life. So I'm going back to pros trade. I'll see if Pelicans would just give me any offer to trade, and there's no offer to trade Anthony Davis in general. So again, I'm going back to Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, Lonzo Ball, adding Josh Hart. Again, I do play with this a little, and it does take me some time. So I'm going to fast forward it a little. All right. And I'm going to show you where the trade actually happens. All right. So it does take me a while to figure this out. So I'm doing this as I go. And there's just a bunch of rules that like the trading in GM mode just requires you to do. Right? All right, again, this is the trade, right? So a bunch of third string garbage players for Anthony Davis and pretty much Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, Lonzo Ball, Caldwell Pope, and Lance Stevenson. All right, this is what I tried. Probably not going to end up doing this trade, but because Lance Stevenson wasn't included in the final one, I'm trying to include Zubac here. Again, it messes up with the salary cap, so I'm gonna have to adjust the salary cap a little. Again, I play around with a little, and I'm gonna adjust the salary cap very soon. All right. So let's do this again. So after doing this for a good 10-15 minutes to figure out how this trade goes through, it's like pretty much like impossible to make this trade go through. So I had to force it. So let's see this again. What was the final trade? So the final trade was Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, Lonzo Ball, Caldwell Pope, Josh Hart, and 2019 LA unprotected draft pick, right? For Anthony Davis, Solomon Hill, Kendrick Williams, Tim Frazier, and Frank Jackson, right? So these are all. So the Kendrick Williams, Tim Frazier, and Frank Johnson are third string players that I had to trade to like fill up the roster spot, or 2K wouldn't allow me to make this trade go through, right? So the whole point of doing this is to get the trade to go through, first of all, but also not affect the whole team's performance, right? Because these players aren't going to get much playing time anyways in the simulation. So as I go through the trade, I sent down a trade. They didn't want to accept the trade, so I overrided it to make the trade go through. So as I go through now, I'm gonna adjust the roster to show you who the Lakers would have, not signing anyone else. So they have Rondo, the LeBron James, Beasley, Anthony Davis, and one of that dude. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he's in shooting guard. He's I'm not even gonna attempt it, right? Because he doesn't get much playing time today, anyways. Only garbage time. So, right. So Anthony Davis averaging a good amount, right? Again, this is per 36 minutes, so this shows how well the player is doing. I can also look at the player efficiency, but don't really want to talk about that right now. I just want to see what it will look like for the whole team right now, right? So we're at 24 and 31, right? So after the trade, all right, Michael Beasley gets hurt, MCL. I'm just gonna adjust it, see what's going on. Lance Stevenson's playing shooting guard. So instead of losing to the Hawks, they beat the Hawks. Still at 25-32, way below 500. All right, you lose to the Rockets. We beat the Pelicans, right? So as we go on, you beat the Grizzlies, beat the Pelicans. So on a 3-game winning streak right now. 4-game winning streak, 5. So doing pretty well with Anthony Davis on the team. 6-game winning streak, and then you play the Nuggets and you lose the game. The winning streak is over. So you're going on a 2-game losing streak, right? So we're playing the Bulls next. Hopefully it wins. So it does lead to a win. Play Toronto. Again, like, Lakers do have the toughest schedule in the second half of the season. So it's going to be a little more rough for the team to win games, right? So you got to win key games. So that's what they're doing. We're beating the Kings, right? Lose to the Wizards because John Wall in this simulation doesn't have a torn Achilles. So we're doing fairly well, almost getting back to 500, and then we lose, and then we just go on a losing streak right now, right before the playoff runs, and before the season ends, we go on a 4-game losing streak, right? So DeMarcus Cousins is MVP. So I'm not gonna go through this because it's a simulation. All right, LeBron does get first team, and looking here, we don't get to the playoffs. Doesn't seem like doing well. So what I'm gonna do now, I just want to see what the end season stats are per 36-minute games. Right, I changed it back to career stats. All right, so Rondo did 10 points per game. LeBron did 26, 6, 6. Anthony Davis ended up with 21, 9, 9, 3. Fairly well, but not as good as this should have been. So I'm just going to simulate the playoffs and just go to the next season. So the whole point of this, Lakers took on a trash contract to sign someone, right? Big off the free agency. So they could potentially just have 2 superstars and just sign another one. And that's the whole argument for signing Anthony Davis, is to attract another star player. Let's see what would happen with the season. So I'm just gonna skip through this. Let's see who wins the championship. All right, so the Thunders blow out the Golden State Warriors, and apparently in this simulation, Boston ends up first and wins the championship. All right, Kyrie gets Bill Russell MVP with 33 points. I went through that pretty fast. All right, so what I like to do is, when I do these simulations, is go to league meetings or league meetings, because for some reason they like to change the dumbest things. So like I would usually reject everything. Like, why would I put 30 seconds on a shot clock? There's some crazy rules that you can change that negates goaltending, like, which is just make it European basketball, which is not what we want here. So, according to this lottery odds, the Sacramento Kings get the 3rd place, which they're doing pretty well. So they don't get a really great pick in real life, but in the simulation, the Kings don't do well. So Celtics get the 3rd pick. So if New Orleans waited to the trade deadline and traded Anthony Davis, then they'll probably get a pretty good prospect. All right, since I downloaded the fan created mock draft of 2019, it has Zion Williamson, has RJ Barrett, and all those people. Right, let's see. So since I don't have anyone to draft, I'm just gonna sim to the end because I traded the first pick. Apparently, like, Mavericks didn't sign Zion Williamson like everyone was talking about. He ended up being a 3rd pick. Cam Reddish went before Zion. So again, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure how, like, these teams decide how to draft players. But again, Zion's getting a lot more hype, and he is getting a lot more exposure that would probably lead him to the 1st pick that you aren't going to get in this game, right? So in this, Durant declined, Kyrie declined, so they're going to be free agents. So I'm looking at, this is just a hard name to pronounce, so I'm not going to try. Right, so I still had Zubac because I couldn't put him in the trade and make it go through. Right, so in free agency we have Durant, Irving, Cousin, Walker, Klay Thompson. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go for Klay Thompson, and I'm going to focus on that and make him an offer, see if he accepts it. If not, cool. If yes, maybe, right? And the problem here is that I have a salary cap problem. Since the Lakers took on Solomon Hill, they do take on a cap space that doesn't allow them to sign a max free agent. So what I'm trying to check out who's taken up most of the cap space, and I'm gonna have to trade Solomon Hill, right? And for this, I'm gonna try to offer him a contract, but it's not gonna work. Just to show you that like this cap space is a problem. I didn't want to take out the cap space because, you know, it makes it a little more realistic. But again, causing me to have problems, right? So I want to see what's holding my cap space. So Rondo, I renounce his rights. Michael Beasley renounces his rights, right? So this is what makes this whole thing interesting, right? I'm gonna try to offer him a contract again with negative cap space, and he's not gonna let me, right? So now I'm gonna do a trade finder and see who's gonna take Solomon Hill for the cap space, right? Just to create some cap space. So this is the first one I see, right? So just to create cap space, I'm going to trade Solomon Hill for 2 draft picks. Don't really care what it is. Don't care if it's bad because I just need some cap space. So now I'm going to make an offer to Klay Thompson. Hopefully he accepts it. See, now I'm not in the negative for cap room, and I can make an offer to Klay Thompson. So now I just going to see if he accepts the offer. If not, that's not going to be good, right? We're not going to have anyone. So yeah, it said Klay Thompson decided to sign with 76ers. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go for the next best thing. I'm going to go for Jimmy Butler, right? The whole point Lakers wanted to do, focusing on, was this offseason where they can sign big name agents. Like, because there's a whole bunch of people who's going into free agency and they have a chance to land someone. And here, Jimmy Butler declined the offer. And Klay Thompson came back up. So I'm going to make him an offer again, see if he accepts it. So if he doesn't accept it, I'm going to play it as it goes. And he doesn't. He signs with the Warriors again. So now I have to do something a little realistic because I have to make a decision myself, right? So I could sign Brogdon or just someone, right? Bogdanovic. But I don't want to sign Bogdanovic because he's going to take up the small forward position, which LeBron's going to play. So I'm thinking of signing some shooter that can match with LeBron, right? Brogdon is $15 million, so I'm not going to sign him. I'm going to decide to sign Wesley Matthews instead for $6 million. Works with the system pretty well, and a B+ in 3-point shooting. He spaced the floor a little. Works well with Luke's system. I think he's under a lot of pace and space, where Wesley Matthews can create some space. So now, that's the only person I'm going to sign, and like once the season gets started, I'm just going to let the computer sign the rest of the people. So I make an offer to Brogdon too, just in case I don't get Wesley Matthews. So here, I'm going to sign Wesley Matthews. And I'm probably going to get accepted for Brogdon too, and he's going to accept the offer. But he costs way too much money. And I'm going to have to release Tyson, Zubac, and a bunch of other people that I'm going to need to make this roster work. So I decline Brogdon's acceptance and don't end up not signing him. So now I need a point guard, but I'm just going to stimulate it and see who I can get in free agency, because no one great is coming out. So Zubac accepts the offer, and here you can see the progression. LeBron went up Wesley Matthews went down because he's getting pretty old. In hindsight, should have signed Brogdon instead. So I'm gonna simulate this. Since I'm doing only one season, I'm not gonna go to fan created mock drafts. I'm just gonna auto generate it because I'm not gonna go that far into the season anyways. And for trading camps, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna skip it. So yeah. So I need 14 players. So I'm just gonna let the computer sign some random people for me. So looking at it, so I'm definitely not gonna have Bonga start as point guard because he's not that great of a player. He really doesn't know what he's doing. So I'm gonna look for someone in free agency. So luckily we had some decent. I could use sign Seth Curry, or someone else. I decided with TJ McConnell instead because it's pretty good for a starting point guard that isn't cost way too much for free agency, right? Don't need a star point guard because LeBron's gonna run the ball, but I need someone who isn't Bonga, which is, he doesn't do well. So again, I'm just gonna simulate this whole thing and get to the end of the season, right? So you can see here, since they have better chemistry, they start off a little better, right? So we're going 4-1 with a 4-game winning streak. So actually doing surprisingly well with just the main players, LeBron and Anthony Davis, with it no third star, which I expected to get, but neither Jimmy Butler or Klay Thompson wanted to sign, right? I needed a two-way guard, and unfortunately, I didn't get one in the simulation. So I'm just going to let it run through. So we're doing pretty well. 13-5 start. So let's just see what goes through. So as you're simming along, you can see that we're beating against teams that we're expecting to beat. And unfortunately here, LeBron gets a torn right MCL. So for 2 months. So I'm not going to adjust that because he is getting old now and he is more prone to injury. So I'm just going to let it play out. See how well the team can do without LeBron for 1 to 2 months. And see if the Lakers make it into the playoff this year. All right, so a bunch of injuries. I'm just going to have the computer adjust it. Yeah. So I just ended up having the computer adjust everything. And without LeBron, go on like a 9-game losing streak, which puts us at 500, barely. Now we're under 500. Hopefully, this simulation doesn't lead to like a non-playoff run again. So we're at 22-21. It seems like their team is adjusting without LeBron. So I'm going to skip through this because it does take a little while for the game to adjust. Okay, so as you see here, I'm checking out the roster before the All-Star game, before the second part of the All-Star break starts. TJ McConnell's back, Wesley Matthews, LeBron James is back. So we're at a decent record now where we can push to the playoffs and see what we can do from there. But he's doing pretty well, right? He only played 30 games because of the injury. Anthony Davis played 57. So LeBron literally missed half the season so far. So we're going on a winning streak since the team after the All-Star break. So I'm going to skip to the end of the season and see what we could do from there, what happens from there. Right? So the season's winding down. The record of the team is 44-34 now. So hopefully we're going to hit the seventh to the 5th to 7th spot. All right, so Steph Curry won MVP. Steve Kerr won Coach of the Year. Anthony Davis won Defensive Player of the Year. And the all-first teams, no one on the team got in the all-first team. Anthony Davis got in the all-second. And since LeBron had injury, he's not in any of them. So let's look at the stats. I don't know why the computer likes to put Bonga as the starting point guard, which I don't want to do. All right, so Wesley Matthews averaging 9 points per game, which is not great. LeBron's doing 26 points per game with a plus minus of 6. So he does make a big difference in this simulation. So computer started Mo Wagner, which I'm fine with. So Anthony Davis is at a 25 points per game, right? So let's see how the Pelicans are doing. Ingram is doing 14, 3, and 2. So, and they're doing negatives, right? So Kuzma is at a 14, 4, and 0. Lonzo Ball is at a 12, 5, and 12. 12, 5, 12. So, yeah, plus or minus. So, and Josh Hart's at 8, 2, and 2, right? So these are decent players, but they're not star caliber like the trade for Anthony Davis. All right. So let's look at the conference. See where each team is standing after the first season of the trade. All right. So the Lakers are in the 5th spot at 47-35. So they're tied with the Nuggets. And I just wanted to see how the Timberwolves are doing so well. They traded the Pelicans actually aren't in the playoff run this year, which they were last year, which is surprising. Well, actually not really, because Anthony Davis was probably lifting the team's record before the trade. All right, so I'm going to simulate this, see how how far the Lakers go with the 5th seed. So if they do win, gonna have to play the Warriors. So probably not gonna get past the Warriors since Klay Thompson did sign back. So after 7 games, the Lakers did make it to the second round. Adjusting the rotations again with LeBron. McConnell's doing 11 points per game in the playoff. LeBron's doing 22, 6, and 7. No playoff LeBron, but a decent number. I don't know why I have Luke Babbitt on my team, but I'm just going to let it be. Anthony Davis is doing 22 missed points per game. I'm going to simulate it. All right. So we're not getting blown out completely. So lose after 6 games, which is not too bad, right? Since they do have an extremely stacked team. They re-signed Kevin Durant, re-signed Klay Thompson. They don't have DeMarcus Cousins, but that's still a pretty crazy team. Like each win they have is pretty much a blowout. 130 to 102. Just looking at it, like So it's hard to beat this team. And like any team's hard to beat, even with Anthony Davis and LeBron on the same team. And I don't know what's going on in the East, where the Hawks and the Bulls made the conference finals, and the Hawks blew out the Bulls, right? And I don't. I'm not even gonna look at this because it's absurd. Trae Young is, in my opinion, not that good. So here's what it'll be like for the Lakers signing Anthony Davis and actually getting the trade go through. The first season, because it's a simulation, they didn't get to the playoffs, and they're close to not making the playoffs right now. And the second season, the Lakers did make the playoff with the 5th seed, but got knocked out in the second round. So, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you like it. Please comment on any suggestions you have while I make my next simulation. Thank you.